Oh, aye, me laddie. Aye, it's alright, laddie.
No cow. This aura is expensive. My snacks. Most people can afford it. Are you for it? For it? No class. Don't be late for your appointment. They pass, or I could be your biggest disappointment. Disappointment, you don't want
Welcome to WYCD Wicked, that stands for What You Can Do. It's your old pal Jake, and let's just address the elephant-sized room. Your old pal Jake comes from money, which is not the same thing. I want to be absolutely clear, so I am not accused of misrepresenting myself. It's not the same thing as actually having money. So currently, I am pooch sitting for adorable puppies. That is me, Benny Ladd, who is my dog, alongside Rosie, Archibald McLean, and Wallace. And these dogs will probably make an appearance at various times on the stream. For example, while they do not cuddle at all times, the human must be available for cuddles at all times, hence the couch. While the parents are out of town, I am watching the dogs of various family members, which also means my normal streaming setup is simply not available. This is, of course, during indictment watch. It would appear that the indictment of Donald Trump, the first ever indictment of an American president, or someone who was once an American president, thank Christ that's no longer the case. But anyway, it would appear that is due Friday, because that is when the jury will meet next. And to my knowledge, we didn't get one today. I also want to stress, though, the indictment might happen and the public may not be informed of it. Additional streaming notes before I go further into that. They're going to be very confused about who I'm talking to. So you may have pooches sniffing the microphone and such. What is the purpose of telling you all that? Well, number one, it's to explain the lack of the normal infinite blue void. And number two, it's because we're going to do a very, very casual stream today and probably tomorrow as well. I don't have a whole plan set up for everything. I have some basic suggestions about what we can do, of course, but mostly all I want to do is play some clips for you, talk about them. I'm going to be dry watching all of these. I have not seen them before. They simply look like they're interesting, and they are from sources that I know to be, generally speaking, reliable. Why is reliable important? Well, in this case, it's so that we don't have to interrupt it constantly with corrections, and I don't have to pause to look something up to check it because it sounds suspicious. These are from folks largely recommended by you, by the way, that are reliable. And they do most of that well on their own end. But yes, it's going to be a lot more casual. And I'm going to be trying very hard not to break any of the nice things that my family has acquired that I could never, ever in my wildest dreams afford to replace. Oh, God. The mic is currently hooked on let's just pray a little bit. No atheists in a foxhole, nor apparently in a house that is being set. Let's just pray I don't break anything. Oh, boy. How you guys doing today, by the way? I'm doing fantastic. I'm surrounded by some of the best befurred company on the planet in the form of these pups. How you guys doing? John McDonough, hello all. Hello to you. Foxy Dragon saying hello. Nice house, says John McDonough. It is a nice house. It is not my house. I feel like a tourist, even though it is my own parents' house. Even though from time to time I come hang out here. When they're not here, it just feels weird and wrong. Jake, you need a smoking jacket. I have a smoking jacket. I should have brought it. But I would feel wrong smoking in this house. Damn, you look comfy. That is quite correct. My word, I'm feeling comfy. And in that spirit, let's watch some clips as though we are in the living room, watching it on the TV. I will say, because we have no choice but to use this setup at the moment, it will be a fun way to experiment. David Feldman recently, I say recently, within the last 3 weeks, he discussed why CPAC fell apart. And I believe that is going to be a fascinating dissection by Feldman. I have my own thoughts and theories on this. I'd be interested to hear yours as well while we talk about it. I do know in the first 30 seconds he says some bizarre stuff that I do not necessarily stand by because I had to download the clip, and that necessitates me seeing part of it at some point. Regardless, we're gonna cut into that, or rather, we're going to discuss that, and hopefully, he gets to the point where he talks about why CPAC fell apart. I'm interested to see it. Feldman, by the way, John, I believe that was you that recommended him in the first place. I've been watching some of his clips, and you were right. This is exactly the kind of content I want to use as a springboard to talk about then what you can do. But let's look at what he's talking about right now with why CPAC fell apart.
The Biden administration revealed today that a pro-Ukrainian group was behind last year's attack on the Nord Stream pipelines, and that pro-Ukrainian group would be the Biden administration.
Okay.
As many as 3.5 million French citizens took to the streets to protest a government pension reform proposal that raises the retirement age to 64. Garbage went uncollected. Police fired tear gas.
This was 3 weeks ago, and they're still at it. Updates on that, if you haven't been watching. Macron tried to push it through against the will of his people, against the of his countrymen, including their representatives. It's been fascinating. I think Macron's days are numbered. with how he has handled this in terms of political power, and rightly so. It's been an embarrassment. And I should have been talking more about what the people of France are doing, because what a wonderful example of how the people can take power back from their government when their government acts wrong. One of the reasons I didn't is that they are starting from a stronger position than the American working class is, because it's been more profitable to be a worker in France. So they have more of a nest egg built up. But that said, I mean, their tactics are effective. And if we can get to the point where enough of us are able to do even a portion of what they did, it's going to have great long-term effects.
Unarmed civilians, and a third of all flights going in and out of the country were canceled. That pretty much sounds like every day in New York City without the strikes. This is what democracy looks like, what's going on in France. You have 3.5 million protesters. Some of them were troublemakers. They set fire to garbage cans and broke windows, but not a single protester shot and killed. Why is that? No guns. Although things did get ugly when French President Emmanuel Macron had enough with protesters outside the presidential palace. So to shatter the angry mob's resolve, he ordered in his notorious Josephine Baker Brigade to let loose with a 4-minute dance sauvage. Yes, that is definitely the Josephine Baker Brigade letting loose with a 4-minute dance sauvage. Maryland Governor.
I don't know what that's in reference to, but it did look fantastic. And I didn't hear about any protesters getting hurt. Maybe I was wrong.
Larry Hogan announced that he would not seek the 2024 Republican nomination for president. Donald Trump is so disappointed because he already picked out a nickname, and that nickname was going to be Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. Wow, that is really vicious to call Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. That is...
Gotta tell you, we're 2 minutes in to a 4-minute clip, and he has not talked about CPAC yet. Come on.
Very cruel. Well, CPAC met all...
I spoke too soon.
...last week in Washington, D.C. Embattled head of CPAC, Matt Schlapp. Matt Schlapp is accused of sexual misconduct with another man, which might explain why Matt Schlapp took to the stage on opening night to announce this year's CPAC theme had been changed at the last minute.
No. Is he just messing around? Was it really changed? That wouldn't surprise me. These are the people that said we are all domestic terrorists.
From keeping America safe to Matt Schlapp can't get enough of those big-ass lady bosoms. Okay.
Okay.
So I guess that means he's innocent. If he can't get enough of those big-ass lady bosoms, he didn't pound that man's...
You can be bisexual, though. I'm just saying. Come on.
...junk. But according to the Washington Post... Remember that male Herschel Walker staffer who is suing, claiming that Matt Schlapp, quote, pounded my junk, right? Oof. According to the Washington Post, that male staffer is not the only one to complain about Matt Schlapp's...
This is a 3-week-old video, and I hadn't heard that. Or rather, if I did, it just didn't stick. There were other accusations, really, against Schlapp. That's not a surprise. Generally speaking, when you hear about sexual misconduct, when a literal criminal case is made about it, generally speaking, I think the ratio is something like there were 10 other instances where it happened and wasn't reported. Certainly when it comes to child molestation, it's something like, I think it's 10. I think that's the number. And it's possible that when it comes to adults, it's different, but the principle is the same. I do know that. So it's not a surprise to hear that there were others that this apparently happened to. What was a surprise is that Schlapp showed his face at CPAC at all. That was bizarre. Another slight format change for the next couple of days. I may casually, or occasionally rather, pause the stream and do this. Now, Benny, that's enough. Bloody. Can't let him. Oh, he's going right back to licking that paw. He's gonna lick it raw. That's the problem. Anyway, bizarre that Matt Schlapp was at all present on the stage during that.
Behavior in the workplace. Former CPAC employees complain, according to the Washington Post, that Schlapp created a hostile work environment that was sexist, homophobic, and racist. Shocking. Hard to believe that people who went to work for CPAC, an organization dedicated to promoting intolerance towards women, the LGBTQ community, and people of color.
Matt, I'm not laughing at that. John McDonough says, I wonder who gave Schlapp a ride. Yeah, that's got to be weird for every campaign staffer, right? Or not even campaign, just any staffer who's driving Schlapp around has got to be like, so you just sit in the back, way in the back. We're driving a minivan here, going the far back. And I'm going to put up a cardboard divider that I normally use to keep the dog from getting up front when they've been running through the mud. That's what I'm going to use. And if you have any problems, just keep it to yourself. It's got to be an awkward experience.
Hard to believe that they would find themselves treated poorly just because they were a woman, a member of the LGBTQ community, or a person of color. What are the odds? What are the odds?
I mean, truly, it's bizarre to me that there is anybody in... No, I take it back. I understand why people would sell out their own demographics to this organization, the Republican Party. I get it. I know why. And in part, it's going to be because you don't solely identify as the demographic you are. Sure, I understand that. Absolutely. But I would think there would be peer pressure. I would think folks that you run into that are in your demographic would let you hear about it and would express disappointment at the very least. I would hope they do that when they hear what you do for a living. I don't know how there are any women at all that vote, any LGBTQ plus people at all that vote Republican. I don't know how there's anybody other than, even as I'm about to say, like a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, and all right, fair enough. But I don't know how there's anybody at all, anybody left that is still voting Republican. It boggles the mind. Other than to say it's got to be just the echo chamber, because I'm willing to believe that there's maybe a couple million, maybe a handful of million people in the United States that just have that much hate in their heart. But I don't believe there's 74 million people in the United States that are that hateful. I do, however, believe, and I am certainly willing to believe, that there are 74 million people in the United States who are misinformed. And it is going to be largely a grassroots effort to take advantage of the situation we have happening now with Fox Dominion lawsuits and soon to be Trump having his lies exposed in court. We're going to have to take advantage of that at a grassroots level and go to other people in our community and make the fact that they are misinformed a conversation that they have to have. Because otherwise, I mean, we're going to keep getting these monsters.
Before running CPAC, Matt Schlapp worked for the Koch brothers, where he was forced to leave under a cloud of workplace discrimination. Do you realize how loathsome an individual you must be for the Koch brothers to find you repulsive?
Jesus.
Matt Schlapp was literally too skanky for the Koch brothers because Matt Schlapp has...
That's like not like wearing too little clothes for the strip club. Just bizarre.
been accused of sexually assaulting another man. Attendance at CPAC this year ended up lighter than his loafers. This picture clearly demonstrates how small the crowd was for Donald Trump's big speech.
Oof.
But Sean Spicer came out after Trump spoke and insisted Donald Trump's speech was the largest attended CPAC speech in history, period. Look at this
Jesus.
picture. The room looks emptier than the space between Jimmy Dore's ears.
Ha!
Far-right fascist, racist, and mortal danger to freedom-loving Americans.
Yep.
Steve Bannon was there. And as you can see, Steve Bannon is starting to look as ugly on the outside as he is on the inside.
Oh yeah. He's like if Dorian Gray didn't have the picture.
To refresh your memory, after receiving his pardon from Donald Trump, Bannon was found guilty of contempt of Congress and is awaiting sentencing. And he is also on trial in New York for defrauding a charity whose money was supposedly going towards building the wall. Wasn't Mexico supposed to pay for the wall? Maybe the only people who donated to the charity were Mexicans. Maybe that's how it worked out. Speaking of the wall, Doug Freemason attended CPAC wearing a suit that not only looked exactly like Donald Trump's wall.
Is that guy's last name really Freemason? I'm probably missing a bunch of Feldman zingers and not even realizing it.
But also smelled like the Rio Grande. An hour after this picture was taken, Doug stripped down to his boxers after someone checked the suit's label and discovered it was made in China.
Oh, Feldman. So yeah, CPAC was a mess. I was hoping he would show one of the empty crowd shots because I remember that from the earlier coverage. So Trump gave his little speech last weekend about, the usual complaints. But he was at Waco and he ramped up the J6 rhetoric. He went as far as, I'm not going to play it. It's not because I don't think it's right to play it. I just don't happen to have that clip handy, and I feel like we've all seen it probably. But if you missed it, he asked people to put their hands over their hearts, and the announcer did, and then played a song, which was the national anthem, sung by a bunch of January Sixers, the J6 Choir. I saw that played all kinds of places. And then I saw another news story, which I think is interesting when you hold the two together, which is that within 30 minutes of Trump starting to speak, people were shuffling for the door. I have to wonder how many people in that crowd showed up, were excited about Trump and what he was going to talk about for 2024, and then saw that he was embracing the January Sixers, was replacing the traditional national anthem with the version sung by them, and asking the audience to put their hands over their hearts and stand for that. I think he is going to continue hemorrhaging support as he asks for more and more from his fans. He's going to ask them to get wilder and to support wilder things. I promise you, there was at least one person in that crowd in Waco who realized they were in Waco, Texas, on the anniversary of, let's call it like it is, the killing of several FBI agents by a cult, the Branch Davidians, and that they were being asked to listen to a creepy version of the national anthem sung by criminals that Trump was endorsing. There was at least one person, I assume several, in that crowd who realized on that day, in that moment, oh my God, this ain't for me. And I think that is going to continue happening. I think of all the people around the world who saw that, who used to be Trump fans, who watched any coverage other than Fox, of which there will be a couple. There will be some on the margins always. I think they would have recoiled. And I think if you have the opportunity to point out those facts to somebody or to show somebody any perspective that's not Fox, you should take that. And I think as we go forward, as Trump does this wild stuff, what we should do is continually point out the craziness. Let's have a look. Trump's Foxy Dragon says, sorry, I just saw we were disconnected briefly. Foxy Dragon says, Trump's Waco rally makes me want to vomit. Same. Gastronomical Convections says, Gastronomical Convections Watercolor says, Timothy Snyder is on MSNBC, the 6 o'clock hour, talking about what we can do to keep our democracy, FYI. Hell yeah, I'm going to look at that later. It's much appreciated. And what Foxy Dragon adds quite correctly, while playing footage of the January 6th attack, too. Yeah. And what he, I think, fails to understand about people is they will look at the fact that the J6ers are in prison. And they will look at what he asked them to do. And they will realize that his friends got pardons, but the J6ers didn't get pardons. And he is apparently going to keep asking for the same thing from his followers. I just think, I think most people are kind of dumb. Me especially. But nobody's that dumb. Just like nobody's as smart as Einstein is perceived to be. He's a genius, no doubt. Nobody's as smart as fictional Einstein, and nobody's as dumb as Trump thinks they are. Eventually it'll sink in. Franny P says, love your optimism. Thank you. I appreciate it, and I think I share it with a lot of you. It is not necessarily all bad news. I think a lot of times when we are told disturbing things about Trump and disturbing things about his followers and the state of things, part of that is the panic of corporate media. Because like it or not, one of the consequences of Donald Trump doing what he did over the last 7 years now is that the jig is up. I looked it up. That's fine to say. The jig is up. Trump doesn't happen unless people get fed up with the way things are run. And MAGA is a bad reaction to it. You guys are a good reaction to it. And at the end of the day, the good reaction is going to win out. Why? Because the things we recommend work. It's that simple. Speaking of, Trump has become a liability, even for Fox, whose job it was to cover for him. Trump has become a liability. And I saw this from, I believe, Midas Touch, talking about how Fox News hosts turn on Trump. Ooh, I want to see it. I hope it's what I think it is. We'll see.
Let me get to my basic theme here.
Yeah.
I don't think America wants that kind of behavior in a presidential candidate.
This is such an opportunity for Republicans just to say, look at what we did. Look at what he's doing. Look at what we had. Look at what he's doing. Instead, the President of the United States, former President of the United States, opened up with January 6th video, which is insane.
Must be Dominion in the air. Something in the air, because...
Oh, this new fellow, this Scottish fellow. First of all, my Jack Russell Terrier is confused every time his voice comes on. He thinks it's him on the TV. But I like him. I like him a lot. If you guys know his name, let me know. I can never find it.
Fox News continued to change their tune in regards to their coverage of the former president. This time in response to his disastrous Waco rally in two separate segments.
Christ, look at that hair. Prince Charming over here. Oi.
Once notorious cheerleaders for the former president can be seen condemning his vile comments suggesting violence over the weekend.
Well, I deal with it. We're dealing with very dishonest people. We're dealing with thugs. We're dealing with people I actually believe that hate our country. Last night I had a rally.
Every accusation is a confession. I truly believe Donald Trump does not like the United States. I truly believe every time and I don't think he's consciously thinking like, ooh, I hate this country. Just every time something classically American comes up, he can't stand it. He doesn't like cookouts. He doesn't like democracy. He doesn't like poor people becoming rich people. He can't stand new money. Even though he is like, he couldn't be more nouveau riche. I realize his father was wealthy and he grew up with money, but like his father wasn't that old money type feeling, and he certainly didn't transfer to Donald any of the old traditions or the old mentalities. This is a guy that has gold-plated toilets. That's something that like a rapper does. That's something that like an athlete does. And there's nothing wrong with it. Who cares? It's no more ridiculous than a yacht. They're all just frivolous ways to burn money. But he genuinely doesn't like people that are like him, that are like that. And that's sort of classically the American story. So to hear him say they hate America, it highlights for me that has always been something that is just sort of the GOP telling on themselves, or in this case, MAGA telling on themselves.
With tens of thousands of people, like the press admitted there were at least 25 or 30,000 people. That means you can double.
I got to call it out, though. If I don't lampshade it, I'll feel wrong. Trump and I have the opposite story. I am old money / no money. I'm what happens if you decide to go into a very, very poorly paying industry and you end up liking it. Being a newsman is, if you're considering it, or you got family that's considering it, it is, the polite way to talk about it is to say it's a job you have to love. And another way to say that is it is truly one of the worst paying jobs you can get into. And the reason for this is that it's almost all salary. I'm not going to bitch anymore, but it's almost all salary, and the hours you work are such that it's literally not possible to like supplement your salary with gig work or something like that, because you're doing like 10, 14-hour days on the reg. Oh, God. Anyway, teasing done, making fun of people and their money. I'm just saying Trump's attitude is bizarre, and I think he tells on himself every time he talks about what he says Democrats think of the country. It's just his opinion, reformed as an accusation.
We're dealing with thugs. We're dealing with people I actually believe that hate our country. Last night I had a rally with tens of thousands of people. Like the press admitted there were at least
15,000, I believe.
25 or 30.
No, 15,000 is what the press said anyway.
1,000 people. That means you can double it at least in Texas, Waco, Texas, and it.
Really, really surprised how much he's trying to sell that.
Was like a love fest.
This is such an opportunity for Republicans just to say, look at what we did. Look at what he's doing. Look at what we had. Look at what he's doing. And I think for President Trump to spend 80% of his time complaining about court cases instead of just looking at his own record and what he would have done. And let me tell you what I would have done to SVG. Let me tell you what I would have done over in to Syria if we are guys.
SVB. He was talking to the bank. Okay.
Got hit for the 74th time and twice in 2 days. He does that, or other candidates do that, they're going to be unbelievably successful because that's going to be the conversation at the kitchen table. Instead, the President of the United States, former President of the United States, opened up with January 6th video, which is insane. He should be.
Yes. I promise you, there are a lot of Fox watchers that felt like that was insane, that did not feel comfortable saying that was insane, until Brian Kilmeade said, that was insane. Oh, that's so good to see. That's like a weight off my chest. Good Lord.
Running from that period, I don't care his point of view, that is not a good thing for him. I thought that was absolutely awful. Even though he is winning in the polls, that will not help.
Let me get to my basic theme here.
Yeah.
I don't think America wants that kind of behavior in a.
It's so weird to see them using their normal techniques against Trump. Like, it's such a small part of the story, but the lower third that they keep up that whole time. Crowd quiet as Trump hits DeSantis at rally. I mean, get him. Good. We need less support for Trump. The guy's a cult leader. Good.
Presidential candidate. I think they're tired of it. I don't think they like to see him wielding a baseball bat prior to some possible charges in court.
Yep.
I just don't think it goes down well with a majority of people. What do you say?
Well, yeah, no, I think you're exactly right about it. And I think that even in 2016, people would have rather not had to turn to somebody like Donald Trump. The question is, you call it the slash and burn.
That is an interesting point, and I don't. You know what? I was going to say I don't think it's true that in 2016 people would have rather not turned to Trump, but he was a little bit embarrassing. He was just the only voice that was speaking for Republicans, that was speaking essentially out against oligarchy. Or, I mean, they used their own terms. They would be like the elites, et cetera, the establishment, the swamp. How ironic, by the way, that he's at Mar-a-Lago now in Florida. The Gators practically hanging out with the waitstaff. But nonetheless, I do wonder how many people would have preferred somebody other than Trump. But then again, there was an appreciation for how mad he made people like me. So, who's to say?
In politics, and that's a good description of it. But the alternative is using the entire judicial system to prosecute people for their political beliefs.
I mean, sure, there are countless segments of Trump and yourself pushing the big lie that essentially fueled an insurrection, and get upset when one of the enablers calls back to said insurrection.
Tonight, new revelations about the once private opinions of powerful figures at Fox News who rejected and ridiculed false claims made by then President Trump and his allies about a stolen election.
Oh, I'm going to leave it there for just a second while we look at these comments. Oh, 4 Seasons Total Landscaping. I love it. How do you spell lie? John McDonough. Very good. Wireless Mike, good to see you as well. Franny P says, because he wants to rule, not lead. Yes. Yes, exactly. He's not interested in being president. He wants to be king. Oh, absolutely delightful. Glad to have the gang here, man. I've been loving hanging out with the pups, but they don't speak English. So it's nice to have a little back and forth.
But continued to promote those election lies.
If you never saw, what was that Stephen Colbert show about the president? Oh, it's killing me. Oh, well. Their version of Sean Hannity, every time the show would start in the Stephen Colbert cartoon about Donald Trump, I always think of that intro, which is just Hannity. I'm going to try to download that, actually. It's so funny. But yeah, every time I see a Hannity clip, I want to go, Hannity!
To their cable news audience.
After allegations
God,
that their
he's a dumb
machines
potato.
caused thousands of votes in one Michigan county to be switched from Donald Trump to Joe Biden.
But in court filings today and Thursday, internal conversations, texts, and testimony show that some of Fox's biggest names knew the claims were bogus.
Now, do I buy it? No, not at all. Do I take a wee bit of joy in knowing that it likely has Trump launching ketchup at the walls? Well, I can neither confirm nor deny.
Mr. Jeffries, in one of his late-night Truth Social missives last night, the former president said there would be a potential for, quote, death and destruction should Alvin Bragg choose to charge him in his investigation. What's your response to that?
Well, the twice impeached former president's rhetoric is reckless, reprehensible, and irresponsible. It's dangerous, and if he keeps it up, he's going to get someone killed.
Ooh.
We've already seen the consequences of incitement from the former president. He is principally responsible for inciting the violent insurrection that happened on January 6th. But clearly he has not learned his lesson.
Facts.
It's also very unfortunate that the extreme MAGA Republicans...
First up, I don't know what's up with that audio, but I can still tell what he's saying, so I'm not going to mess with it. Hopefully you can as well. Hakeem Jeffries, not necessarily my favorite person in terms of overall politics, done a fantastic job as minority leader. Fantastic job. No complaints. Democrats have been acting in the House exactly as I'd hoped they would. They're taking advantage of the strategic situation beautifully. I think they have earned their place there. When it's more than just does somebody vote for the things you want them to vote for. Although I think that is the main thing, certainly. It's also, are they bright enough? Are they strategic enough? Are they vicious enough? Do they throw enough elbows to put them back? In other words, are they a good enough player to stay in the game? And the Democrats in the House under Minority Leader Jeffries have earned it, as far as I'm concerned.
in the House of Representatives continue to back President Trump and his reckless and his violent and his hateful and his disgusting rhetoric.
Midas Touch is unapologetically pro-democracy. And look, we know you are too. So please make sure you check out our best-selling shirt and our best-selling gear.
That's enough of that. Let me set this up here. Let's just watch it. Let's watch a clip of that goofy show. while I hopefully interact. Hey, there we go. Does anybody else remember this show? Oh, I do hope so. All right. A little more. Beautiful. All right. This was our cartoon president. I'm going to make sure I can hear it as well. Control audio via OBS. Hey, that's all looking good. All right, what the hell? We're going to give it a shot.
We begin tonight with a correction. Last week, I said the Devin Nunes memo is Watergate times 1,000. In fact, it's the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs times 1,000,000. I'm joined now by someone whose brain is so big, it's choking off its own blood supply, Donald Trump Jr.
Hello, Sean. My father's not a racist. When his limo drives to JFK Airport, it specifically goes through black neighborhoods to avoid traffic.
You don't hear about that enough. So tell the folks what happened when God told Devin Nunes to hand you the memo.
I thought this totally vindicates everything my father and my entire family has ever done, including when I urinated from a balcony onto a quinceañera. What is the Spanish word for I am sorry?
There isn't one. Now tell the people what's in the Devin Nunes memo.
It is 3 pages. The main character
Good
is
Lord.
my dad, and the bad guy is the FBI. And the theme of the story, also known as the moral of the story, is Devin Nunes will say anything. He's a good guy.
Oh, God. It's so hard to parody these people, specifically because if that had been just a deep fake, I would have thought that it wasn't real, but I wouldn't have been sure. Till he got to the moral is, I wouldn't have been sure. Good Lord. So, getting right out of there. Will 2024? Hell yes. I'm watching, folks. Getting ready for a big day tomorrow. Have a great evening. Go, Jake. Thank you, Will 2024. We will indeed keep at it. Do want to say something happened in Laura Ingram's show that everybody missed, myself included. And it didn't hit me until I was doing like the post-stream cutting and what have you, lines of coke, that it dawned on me what she had said. And everybody else who I saw cover this missed it as well. And because of that, I was thinking maybe I misinterpreted this. Maybe I'm seeing something where there is nothing. Because what she said was straight up calling to cheat in the elections. Remember, Laura Ingram's been giving Trump advice as part of her show about how to run her campaign. Sorry, I've got souvenirs from my canine friends. But she's been giving him advice. And she said that he was talking about 2020 still, and saying, oh, how bad was it that the Democrats did X and Y crazy things that they accused the Democrats of, that the Democrats didn't actually do. And she said he was doing that, and that was bad, and what he should be doing instead was talking about how Republicans can do that. So they've been accusing, wrongly, as we've seen time and time again, they've been accusing Democrats of cheating. And Ingram appeared on her show to say we ought to be cheating. But as I said, nobody else talked about that, so I assumed I must be wrong. Well, here's a clip from the David Pakman show talking about what Trump just said they should do Trump who's been getting advice from Ingram. Surprise, surprise, he's all for cheating.
Donald Trump is also now admitting he's going to try to cheat in 2024. Mike Pillow found out about this and is not in agreement with Donald Trump.
For the record, Donald Trump did try to cheat in 2020. It's not talked about much because it wasn't very successful. First of all, Republicans throughout the country, and I mean Republican politicians throughout the country, do their best to cheat every election. In fact, look at when we have the proper setup, I will do a presentation on some of the most egregious cases. But North Carolina, straight up, literally thieving of ballots, of votes, literally tossing out Democrat votes. This is not a conspiracy. This was proved. They do their best to gerrymander, as we see in Wisconsin, as we had in Michigan until 2018, which, by the way, resulted in a ton of heartache for the for the state. They do their best to cheat. Donald Trump tried to get armed people at the polls to scare off Democrat voters. They tried moving ballot boxes off college campuses and making it more and more difficult to vote. This is not news, in other words, that Donald Trump is all for cheating. What is news is that he is now recommending that Republicans cheat in the way he has accused Democrats of cheating. And what is also news, certainly to me, is that apparently Mike Lindell has principles. He has a weak grasp of reality at best, but apparently he won't go so far as to do what he has been accusing the other side of. For the record, I don't believe Mike Lindell actually feels like he's found anything, even though he keeps saying he's found indisputable evidence. And the reason why is because he would have taken it to court, but he hasn't. But nonetheless, let's see how much this really is a rift between these two fellas.
This is super, super interesting. Donald Trump put out a statement. I missed this originally, but this is just bonkers stuff. Trump put out a statement saying, we need to beat Democrats in 2024. And of course, the Democrats cheat. It's like, no. You tried to steal the election, but put that aside. He insists Democrats cheat.
How did I not list January 6th in the list of the attempts Trump made to cheat in the election? Of course. That should be item number one. He tried to literally overthrow democracy when democracy said he didn't get to be president anymore.
We need, Trump says, to start ballot harvesting just like they do.
And on the list of Republican, I'm gonna knock it off after this. On Republican cheating in general, George Bush was president through cheating. Statement of fact. Florida 2000, look it up. That's going to be in the larger stream, though.
We need to do the ballot harvesting. Now, Mike Pillow has been slamming ballot harvesting, alleging that Democrats do it, and I'll explain what it is in a moment, for 2 years now. So Pillow...
Also, ballot harvesting is in a gray area. It's not necessarily illegal, which is where I'm sure Trump is going to... try to get away with this. I'm going to let the whole thing play.
Furious. So let's listen to what Trump had to say first.
The radical left Democrats have used ballot harvesting to cancel out your vote and walk away with elections that they never should have won. They cheat, and they cheat like nobody's ever cheated before. Many states have banned ballot harvesting to keep our elections honest and fair. But in the states where ballot harvesting is still legal, we have no choice but to beat the Democrats at their own game.
So for the record, contrary to what Packman said, what Trump was saying there, technically not cheating. I understand that the reality is he'll do any dirty thing in the book. But if we're being brutally, mercilessly decent about this, he's saying in the states where it's legal, we should do it. You're allowed to say that.
It's very simple. Either we start ballot harvesting, or you can say goodbye to our country. You can just wait.
But I want to stress, this is after that Ingram segment. Just wild to me that nobody caught her saying that.
Wave goodbye, because Democrats would win every single election. We have to get smart, and that's why our campaign will fight back and start harvesting ballots in the states where the left has been cheating.
The scourge of ballot harvesting, which they will now participate in?
The system and hurting our country. But our harvested ballots will only come from legal registered voters who are American citizens.
You're going to harvest ballots, but from legal voters, whereas Democrats were harvesting ballots from illegal voters.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons I like showing. I realize we start to get a little bit of a... Anyway, one of the reasons I like showing this kind of stuff through people like David Pakman is Pakman does a really good job of sorting out, I guess, what Trump is trying to say. I find it very helpful, at least.
With your help, we will master the Democrats' game of ballot harvesting, and we will win back the White House from Joe Biden and the people that are destroying our country.
At least he's admitting that he's got to win it from Joe Biden.
You collect and submit completed ballots on behalf of voters. So the idea is there's someone who says, I will collect the ballots. You fill your ballot out. I will go and collect it. And it's a technique used to increase voter turnout, especially when there are people who have a tough time getting to polling stations, either because they live very rurally and don't have a car, or they have a physical limitation, or whatever the reason may be. In general, the term ballot harvesting means, I will go and collect ballots. Now, the legality varies from state to state and jurisdiction to jurisdiction. In some places, it's legal and regulated. In some places, it's illegal. Some states say you can do it, but you can only do it for family members and caregivers. You can't just have the person on your block who says, I'll collect everyone's ballots and drop them off, or whatever the case may be.
I'm not really sure how I feel about that practice in general. I understand why it exists, particularly in rural areas. It just makes sense. I don't know how I feel. I would prefer that nothing but government employees handle ballots, which would include, by the way, mailing them in. But I also don't see how it's a massive, why you would make it illegal. Well, I take it back. You might make it illegal not because you're concerned that somebody is going to submit a fraudulent ballot. The reason, and this is also why Trump's argument doesn't really make any sense, the reason you wouldn't want ballot harvesting is somebody could go around saying, sure, I'll take your votes in and your votes in and your votes in, and they're collecting genuine votes. But, and this is, I believe, what we saw with North Carolina, we're not concerned about them submitting extra votes for somebody that didn't actually get cast. We're concerned about them taking those and saying goodbye and throwing them out, not submitting them. And then it relies on the people who believe they've cast their vote to check with the state and make sure their vote got cast. And if it didn't, then enough of them have to prove that their votes didn't get cast for it to make a difference. It becomes difficult then. So when he's saying we have to ballot harvest, doesn't really make sense, because the fraud he'd be concerned about, he'd actually be opening himself up to, or rather opening his voters up to. If I understand it correctly, and it's entirely possible I don't.
It's become a very hot topic in the U.S. recently because the right is arguing the left harvests ballots, but they do it with coercion. They encourage voter fraud. They get a bunch of illegal voters to fill out ballots and then they collect them. There's no evidence of any of this stuff.
And the reason it wouldn't make sense is because when you harvest ballots, you're just doing essentially delivery service. They still have to go to the place where they're verified. They don't get just automatically submitted, nobody looks at them. The process then becomes no different than if somebody had voted in person or mailed in their vote. They're still checked, the same checks that they always were.
But it's what the story they've been telling. So Trump saying we should do it puts Mike Pillow in sort of a strange position. And Mike Pillow says, I spoke to Trump about this. He's never going to say it again.
This voter fraud. But also recently he's been saying, let's beat the left at their own game, at least until we get into office, so that...
No, don't even go there. I've talked to him about that. We are not going to do what they're doing. We're not going to ballot harvest. And you will not hear him saying that. We've worked 2 years to get same-day voting, paper ballots, hand count.
He's like, I've been killing myself. I spent $35 million
tremendous
fighting against ballot harvesting, and now Trump's going to do it?
No machines. And if you say that we want to do what they do, ballot harvest and do this, the Republicans would just make it legal to do what's illegal in a lot of states, and it's over. We lose our country. So that narrative, you will not hear him saying that anymore. I don't even want...
Yeah, Pillow didn't even really want to talk about it. So Pillow says, no. I heard about that. I went to Trump. We're not going to be talking about that anymore. We can't.
Wild to me, if that's true. I don't inherently trust anything they're saying, but wild to me if that is the case, that Mike Lindell has the ability to tell Trump what to do. I doubt very much it would have been that upfront, that direct. But the idea that he could even steer Trump at all, it's bizarre. I feel like that's a power shift.
I really do it. So this is obviously fascinating, and it doesn't seem totally clear to me whether Donald Trump understands. The issue is less about... Obviously,
it literally doesn't matter what he's about to say. Whether Donald Trump understands, it literally doesn't matter what he's about to say. The answer is no.
Any kind of ballot collection, regardless of the state or jurisdiction, you can only collect legal ballots. Like if you somehow, again, imagine the scenarios they dream up. If you somehow find 10,000 blank ballots and bring them to people who aren't registered to vote, I guess you have to find 10,000 undocumented immigrants who, of course, they're going to live all over the place. And
so he's just saying what we said already. No need to replay all that. It's, precisely what I would have thought. It's Trump's understanding of ballot harvesting is non-existent. Because he doesn't need to understand, it's not as though he's discovered something and now he's passionate about it. He was passionate about finding an excuse to lie. And he didn't even bother coming up with a very good one. He just needs to convince his base that for some reason, when he had the advantage of being the incumbent president, for some reason, without that advantage, he's going to win. In order to do that, he needs to somehow work with a group of people that believe him and therefore believe that the system's rigged against them. He needs them to go out and vote. Well, how do you do that? You tell them, we're going to cheat too. And ironically, while I fully believe he will try to cheat, as he has literally always tried to cheat, ironically, he is lying now about the one way I'm sure he is not going to try to cheat. It's just a bizarre time to be alive, I suppose. And fortunately, he appears to be at a point where he has told so many lies that they can't all fit through the door. They can't all exist together. So the people that passionately believe his lies about Democrats stealing elections, they can't coexist with the people that believe that he's going to win in 2024. They can't coexist. If Democrats are stealing elections, what's the point? Why even bother to vote? And the people that believe that Antifa did January 6th can't coexist with the people that believe that the January 6ers are being mistreated in prison. Because if you firmly commit to either of those, then the other one can't exist in that same reality. And while I don't think any one conflict like that is going to be the doom of Donald Trump, in fact, I think the doom of Donald Trump is just going to be court records exposed. But the MAGA movement is going to continue having these problems, and they're going to get worse and worse and worse, and they are going to be in discord constantly. Because their whole reality is built off of so many lies that they contradict each other, which means they can't work together because they would be working against totally different things. Wild time, man. Dogs are awesome. Give them a good scratch on the chin from me, Jake. Wireless Mike, I surely will. Ingraham, yes, apparently that is how you say, I've been saying Laura Ingraham, but apparently, according to her brother, that is how you say the last name. And as much as as little respect as I have for Laura Ingraham, it is generally, I only want to disrespect the things about her which are worthy of it. And you can't help what your last name is. So says a guy named Drogelis. So I must be sympathetic to these things. Pac-Man is awesome, says Wireless Mike. I wholeheartedly agree. We should have no excuse mail-in voting across the country. Also agreed. I really don't think it matters how you get your vote to the people who count it, so long as it is secure. It's a completely ridiculous claim to make, says John McDonough, in every scenario. Wholeheartedly agree. All right, we got an interesting comment here from Wireless Mike 73. Art Bell used to say there's an old Navajo curse that says, may you live in interesting times. Well, here we are. Can we have boring back, please? Yes. Catherine Wolf says, Jake, do I see two huge geodes by the fireplace? Yes, indeed. That is one big-ass rock divided in half, and they are supposed to be bookends. However, I don't know what fucking bookshelf would fit. Oh my God, 1 second. Good God. Look at this thing. What bookshelf is even going to hold this massive goddamn... Okay, here we go. Committed way too much to this bit. Yeah, now I'm watching this on a delay now. I can see myself struggling to lift this thing. I can't fathom the bookshelf that was intended for. But that's a rock. And it's supposed to be a bookend. Oh, the time. The places, the things we get used to, I guess, without even really thinking about it. All right, I'm not sure if we've already done this DeSantis clip. Let me look at this.
Bring in now some
we didn't do this yet.
DeSantis.
I'm I don't do a lot of Morning Joe. but we do it from time to time. I got to admit, it's like it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure for me. I do a so Mika impression. I gotta see this. Apparently, Trump and DeSantis are just going to keep on beefing and let them fight.
Senior writer for The Dispatch, David Drucker, also with us. CNBC founder and Newsweek editor-at-large, Tom Rogers. He argues in a new piece, DeSantis did something that made himself unelectable as president.
Oh, my God.
Well, I got to start with that.
Yeah.
What made him unelectable,
What
Tom?
happened?
Well, Trump may still be the nomination frontrunner, but at some point, primary voters may wake up with 4 possible indictments hanging around his neck that he's not elected.
It is underappreciated. I truly believe. I don't think the fever breaks on MAGA with Trump being out of the picture, if he does go out of the picture. But I do believe that we are not, and I'm putting my money, I'll put a crisp American dollar bill on this bet. I don't think Trump is going to be a significant presence in the 2024 campaign unless he runs third party. But I genuinely believe he is going to hemorrhage support. I know. Seems impossible now, but that's what's going to make it pretty badass if it's a correct prediction.
And Ron DeSantis is the presumptive alternative. But
I also don't think Ron DeSantis is going to be the guy. Although I do want to say this, DeSantis, and again, he does not have the chops to impress anybody on a national stage. They say he's Trump without the baggage, but he is doing his damnedest to gather as much of that baggage as he can by 24. It's crazy. But he's been smart enough to wait for Trump to get indicted before he announces his run for president. And frankly, he's going to change the law in Florida that allows a governor to run for president, that right now doesn't allow a governor to run for president. But he's been dragging his feet on that. And I think he's been dragging his feet because he's waiting for Trump to get indicted.
DeSantis really stepped in it, and it wasn't the Ukraine comments which he walked back, and he may not be able to straddle that issue. It's the abortion issue. And Florida is a state now with a 15-week abortion law, not the most extreme, restrictive, but not the most extreme. And the Florida state legislature came back into session, and they proposed a 6-week ban, the Republicans there. And it was something that also included no abortion by pill. And Ron DeSantis basically said he would sign it, committed to support it. And so now you have a possible alternative nominee who has stepped into what we saw in the midterms was about as alienating an issue as could be to suburban independent women voters, which if you're going to win the swing states, you got to win back that constituency. And we saw how emotional gut issue that is.
I disagree. You don't have to win back that constituency. There are 2 ways to win. You appeal to the middle of the road folks, or you appeal to your base. What we discovered through Trump that the Democrats still have not learned is that you lose your base by appealing to centrists. And the gamble has always been that your base will vote for you no matter what, because what choice do they have? They have the choice to just not go out and vote. The base has different desires now than the centrists do. 30 years ago, centrists more or less overlapped with the base of either party, but they weren't as passionate about those issues that the base was, and they were willing to delve a little bit into the other side's politics of either party. This was true, or at least this was thought to be true. what we've discovered through Donald Trump is that you can either campaign by running towards the center or like appealing towards the center, or campaign by appealing to the base. And Donald Trump doubled, triple, quadruple. Anytime he could, he put more money on the base. And you know what? Even after bungling COVID as badly as it could be, still got 74 million people to vote for him. However, he did a whole lot of Joe Biden's campaigning for him, because Joe Biden got 78 million, I believe, people to 77 maybe. A couple million more people to vote for him. And most people made it clear they were voting against Donald Trump. I surely was. So I just want to disagree with what he's saying here. What he's saying is an old view of politics, and it's an incorrect view of politics. You don't have to appeal to, if you want to win those swing states, you don't have to appeal to centrists. You just need to appeal to the base in those swing states enough that they overwhelm the vote. However, things that Republicans of 2023 want, things that appeal to the base of Republicans in 2023 are abhorrent to everybody else. Let me tell you a little secret. Things that appeal to the base of Democrats in 2023 has surprising support across the political spectrum. I don't know anybody that is passionately against Medicare for all. I know people that don't really think it'll work. I even know some people that think it would be too expensive. But I don't know anybody who would refuse to vote for somebody based on their support of Medicare for all. Whereas I know tons of people who would refuse to vote for somebody based on their desire to ban abortions. In other words, it is becoming easier and easier for Democrats to appeal to the left and still win the center. And we should pressure them to do that.
6-week ban, many women won't know they're pregnant, combined with a 2-appointment delay requirement in
Jesus
Florida,
Christ.
really puts it in a position that an awful lot of women will have no access to abortion services. And it's just an issue that I can't see him being able to walk back or straddle. And I think he couldn't have stepped in it more in terms of making him unelectable.
The signal couldn't have been more clear from voters in November, as you say, on the question of abortion. It swung so many elections across the country. And David Drucker, you've been reporting in Florida about Governor DeSantis. We know how popular he is there. We know he just won by about 30 points in a wipeout. The question remains, though, how can he
That is so depressing.
perform on a national stage? And before we even get to that, I'll put to you, is there any doubt from people you talk to down in Florida that he will run?
There's no doubt that he's going to run. I spent a few days in Tallahassee talking to Republicans who have worked closely with him over the past 4 years. Some are true believers, some aren't his biggest fans. But
I just want to be clear. Ron DeSantis has not said he's going to run yet. And I don't think it's wild to assume that he will. I just think it's very funny that the media is doing their damnedest to make this guy a candidate. How much have we heard about DeSantis versus Nikki Haley, who said she is going to run?
they're all convinced that he is going to run. And of course, he's taking every step you take when you're planning to run for president. You know, I think the interesting thing, and there are a number of questions I address with my sources, but do you think he can handle Trump? And
no,
there are things that we already know about Donald Trump that don't work in a general election context.
I'll answer that. He doesn't need to go to his sources. You got your old pal Jake here. No, he can't handle Donald Trump. He can't handle a shot of raspberry schnapps. He can't handle Donald Trump. He has got no political chops. He's got no charisma whatsoever. Certainly he doesn't have wit. Have you seen this guy on a stage? No, he cannot handle Donald Trump.
But in the context of a Republican primary, he still has yet to be beaten as a presidential candidate.
He's not. Okay. He's not running, but okay. He may run, but he's not running yet.
And he will go after you in ways that even some of the most
Donald Trump,
aggressive, even politicians we'd think rather shameless, wouldn't go after you. Personal attacks they won't make, challenges to the truth that they won't levy. Trump will do all.
What a classy way to say lies.
All of that, and the question is, can DeSantis, is he nimble enough and thick-skinned enough not to let Trump control him, not to be constantly reactive, but to fight in a way that shows Republican primary voters, I'm going to give you what you want, and that is the ultimate fighter and somebody who you think can win and take on the people, Democrats, the media that you don't like. Right. And there's still some indecision there. Some of them think he can, and some of them are not so sure.
So, David, it's very funny because we're so far away from the actual election, but it's very funny that over the past week or so, everybody's like, oh, Ron DeSantis is finished. He's gone down in the polls and da-da-da-da-da. We've got such a long way to go.
We have a long way to go, and I want to stress, as much as Joe Scarborough, sorry about that feedback, as much as Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski there are desperate for Ron DeSantis to be the nominee. I don't know why everybody, just decided it was going to be DeSantis, like everybody in the media. I don't know why. I mean, if you, literally with what they are doing, they could have picked anybody. Why DeSantis? Maybe because he was being the most obnoxious. Maybe because he had that big win as Florida governor. Okay. He hadn't said he's going to run yet. And for them to be doing whole segments like that, it's silly. It's just silly. And then to turn around and say, there's a law, there people are, people are saying he's way down. Well, there's a long time till the election. Well, there's apparently a long time until he even declares he's running, so why are you talking about him? That said, I know why I clicked on the clip. I know why I played it. It's because it's funny. He cannot. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Ron DeSantis does not know what he wants to do. He appears to be trying to appeal to Trump's voters, first and foremost, as opposed to doing what I think they thought he was going to do, which is run for the center while doing head nods to Trump voters. But that's not what DeSantis is doing. I think he'll find that when he lacks the charisma, he's got to fall back on the standard GOP lies, and that doesn't mesh up with what Trump voters need in order to get out and vote. They need the demagoguery. They need the performance. Even if it's a bad performance. I hear that Trump is charismatic. I hear people say that all the time. No, he isn't. You're charismatic if you can use your personality to get people who wouldn't normally like you to like you. Trump is literally just a yes man. That's all. He correctly reads what people want and does it. That's not charisma. He doesn't change anybody's mind. But if you're going to be, he is certainly a demagogue. And he is certainly, I'll say this. All right, let me give him this on charisma. If people were already inclined to like him, he's able to make them love him. DeSantis does not have that. And DeSantis certainly doesn't know how to make people who didn't used to like him by the end of a speech. And he will never have that ability because Puddin' Fingers just doesn't have it in him. I think DeSantis is probably a no-go in 24. I would doubt he even makes it all the way through the primary. But we'll see. But I don't believe Trump either is the guy. And the question is going to be, are we going to have a MAGA-based primary or a push to the center-based primary? Honestly, even though it would be healthier for the country, and ultimately this is what I hope happens, the thing that makes me nervous for Joe Biden is that we have a centrist Republican running, because they're going to be just smart, Joe Scarborough essentially, because they're going to be smart enough to appeal to the MAGA base in one way only, just one. They're going to do one single thing to appeal to the base, none of the other crap. They're going to say, I'm not Joe Biden. In other words, they're going to use Joe Biden's 2020 strategy against him if they get a centrist. I don't know. I don't even think you can call Haley a centrist, even though that's how she was trying to come off. I don't know. Who do you guys think is going to be running in 2024? Oh gosh, Wireless Mike says, sadly, I do know a few people who are ardently against any and all social programs. I know way too many libertarians, but I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, so that explains a lot. Yeah. And libertarians, I find, by the way, I'm going to pull a Sam Cedar one of these days and get a libertarian to debate me. I reached out to a fervent online Trump supporter who has about the same audience size and offered to debate. We'll see how it goes. But libertarians say they are against social programs. And when you start asking what you would replace them with or how you would deal with the problems their loss would entail, such as, for example, people's parents, not just people themselves, but their parents being off Medicare, et cetera, a lot of that hatred dries up. But you're right. I mean, different parts of the country are going to act differently. Certainly, I'll tell you this, Michigan Republicans are going to act a lot different to Wisconsin Republicans. Wisconsin, different to Ohio, Ohio to Tennessee, Indiana, etc. Different flavors everywhere you go. But by and large, I don't see the passion against those issues that I do with, say, abortion, for example. It's a wild one. John McDonough says, maybe it is odd now that you mention it, but it worked out well for us because it made them all look stupid. Yeah. They never have any good answers, says Wireless Mike. I agree. And America, I think, has seen enough of their treading water to recognize it now. So, here's hoping. Oh, good Lord, what have I done? No? Okay. Well, here's hoping that we have people in 2024 that are reasonable candidates. I doubt it very much. Regardless, I expect Trump is going to be a presence in 2024. I just don't think he is going to necessarily be a significant Republican candidate. Let me say that. Third party could very much be that, but I don't think he's going to be a Republican candidate. Or at the very least, I don't think he's going to be at the top of the field for Republicans. And I'll go one further. I have heard more and more talk from former centrist Republicans, and not even centrist, from just Republicans, talking about how Democrats aren't that bad. And I'll play some of those coming up, because I do believe we are at the dawn of a party merge, which will lead to a party split, because there is such a thing as a tent being too big. At that point, it ceases to be a party and is just the political landscape. So it must divide. And I think we should be strategic about that. It's not a bad thing if that happens. That will essentially mean the Overton window shuts on MAGA, and that is very healthy for the country. But I think if we're strategic, the better party for the country will take more voters with it. More on that to come. For now, I'm going to call it a stream because I'm so on my ability to keep going with this setup. We're going to do a very similar thing tomorrow, and depending on how traffic is for family returning to get dogs, possibly on Friday. We are on indictment watch. It looks like the most probable day yet that we have had for an indictment is in certainty that it will happen, which is still not certain, but in the certainty range, is Friday. So, Lord knows, come hell or high water, your old pal Jake will be here streaming for it. I'm excited for it. I hope to see you then. I had a blast hanging out with you tonight in this somewhat more casual stream. And I will see you next time. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake.